What's going on, everyone? Welcome. Today is Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup. That's very hot. It's very hot. Good morning, Mark. Well, I'm not going to say I'm starting to feel better. I've been feeling better, but I'm feeling better and better. So much better now that I even left the house and did all the things that I was supposed to do yesterday. My temperature was not above that threshold that I get nervous at. I took an at-home test. Should I say I passed it? Or yeah, I passed it because it wasn't positive. I don't have that thing that we try not to use the word of. And I'm down to a sore throat. So, but it's getting better slowly. Everything else is getting better. So we move on. Good morning, also, Jenny. What did you guys do yesterday? Did you check out yesterday's episode of Martial Arts Radio with Master Eiler? Hope you did. I hope you liked it. Remember, if you ever have guest suggestions or topic suggestions for Thursday shows, we want to hear them. You can email me, jeremy@whistlekick.com. It's the best way. There's a guest form on whistlekickmartialartsradio.com that you can fill out, which walks you through all the stuff that we need if it's going to be a guest. And so that's the best way. But, I like to remind people, here's my email address. You can email me. Totally fine. Good morning, Brian. I had my firearms lesson last night. I did not cancel that. Honestly, I tried to. I called, and the automated voice tree, I could tell that based on the options I had, it was going to be somebody passing a message to somebody, passing a message to the instructor. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hold out hope that I feel better in a couple hours, and I did. And had no problem. In fact, did some of the best shooting I've done, which was really nice. Learned how to dial in optics, something I had not done before. That's what I showed up wanting to learn. I learned skill development, people. I'm telling you, skill development. Good morning, Liz. So here we are. It's Tuesday. We have a bit of a cooler lull in between some hot weather. Or last week we had like 4 days in a row of 83. 3 days that were close to 90 degrees. We got this coming weekend. We've got a couple more days of 80s, which I'm looking forward to. Knock on wood that I'm completely better, because I got too much work to do in the yard. I got too much work to do in general. We're in kind of the final throes of pre-planting. And as soon as I'm done here talking with all of you, I'll be doing some plant stuff. And then right at my desk, there's a sort of creative project that I need to get to for a client. And that creative work's got to happen first thing in the day. Good morning, Andy. Good morning, Gad. Good morning. Didn't already said good morning, Jenny. Yesterday had a great play date with a friend I haven't seen in person since leaving the lab job in August. Her son is Lilith's age, and this was the first time they met in person. As soon as they saw each other, they ran to each other and hugged. My mommy heart exploded from the joy. That's awesome. Brian says, yesterday was good. Worked a partial day and then bought an older Civic for a commuter replacement. Plans to sell my Volkswagen Passat and free up those funds to allow a nicer bike again. Steps at a time to the goal. Yeah, I'm sorry about what the diesel's doing to your driving, Brian. For those of you that don't know, Brian's a pretty passionate bike and car guy and really loves Volkswagens. And I remember when he got that diesel Passat, and taking a look at what he was spending on transportation. The cost per mile was really low, and here we are with what's going on with the diesel thing. And I'm going to be really honest with you guys. That's not changing soon. So I obviously Brian knows that, but the idea that diesel fuel is expensive, really expensive, and we have a pretty big shortage of DEF, diesel emissions fluid. It's going to cascade out into other things. So I have mentioned this before. I will mention it quietly again. If there are things that you need, things that are important to you to have, you may want to buy some extra. I'm not going to say anything more. Good morning, Dennis. Dennis is driving to work, but tuned in. And good morning, Stacy. What else did I do? I had a few meetings. This is one of those weeks where I feel like I'm going to catch up. Even though last week was kind of a disaster, I feel like I'm going to catch up. And I may have, well, when it happens, let's see, what part of it am I willing to share yet? I think I found a way. Let's see how many boxes we check here. I think I found a way that to do a thing that is really fun, makes me money, no, I think those are the only two check boxes. I think I found something that is fun and makes me money. I've got a little bit more research to do. But let's just say this could be a kind of an interesting hobby. Because remember, my brain's not wired the way everybody else's is. For example, what's a great example? I love riding my motorcycle. I am not the type of rider who generally will get on the bike and just ride to nowhere. I'll do rides like that with other people, but to just ride around, that doesn't do it for me, right? Even the things that I enjoy should have a purpose. That's unfortunately how my brain works. Which is why I sometimes make myself play video games. Because there's really no purpose. It's just... So when I can find a thing that I enjoy that makes me money, back like when I used to DJ, I made money and I really enjoyed it. But would I just sit there and like DJ for an empty room at home? No. So back to the fuel conversation. This is from Brian, diesel has doubled since I bought it in June of last year. It's my 4th TDI. And for those of you who don't know, Volkswagen nomenclature, the turbo diesel. I love these vehicles. However, my commute is almost 100 miles a day round trip. I can no longer justify the passion. Yeah. Jenny's agreeing with me, and we haven't even hit bottom yet. Kelly says, yes, gas and diesel prices suck, but I feel really bad for people not able to get baby formula. Andy, I don't understand what you're saying. I just want to remind you guys, when you post something, there's a delay. There's a delay between what I say, you seeing it, you typing, and then me seeing that. And it can be 30 seconds or more. So if you're, and I, as you know, I do my best to engage with everything that you type. But I need you to make sure that I know what you're talking about. Andy says, when are you going to get your bike out so we can ride together? It's out. I mean, the battery maybe low. I did not put the battery on the tender over the winter, which I'm kind of annoyed at myself about because it doesn't take very long, especially since I put quick connects on it. But the garage was being used to store all my father's estate stuff, and things were kind of out of whack. Soon. Let me get past the garden stuff, and we'll go for a ride. See, that's the kind of ride that I would do, because Andy lives far enough away that we meet halfway and we like do some loop or something. And actually, I love the riding where he is more. There are some much better roads over there. Over here, we have lots of curvy, poorly banked roads with salt and sand on them, seemingly 12 months a year. Brian says, I work for WIC, Women, Infants, and Children. I feel the formula shortage almost daily with calls. Super frustrating for our families. Yep. So let's, I want to take that as a specific example. And I want to preface this statement without judgment or anger or anything. Okay. I look at things from what I consider to be a self-defense lens. Okay. And we've talked about this a little bit, but I think as if the world plays out the way I expect it to through the rest of the year, I think we're going to have more and more of these conversations. So let's start having these conversations. We'll talk about this quickly, and then we'll kind of switch into our stuff. Frank has something for us, and then I want to tackle the topic that I posted on Facebook yesterday. We've been having some good conversation, at least, when my brain's been functional. It makes sense to most of you that most of us who train are going to take some actions that most of the rest of the world would not. Right? When I sit at a restaurant, I want to see the door. I carry a pocket knife. I try to carry a few dollars of cash because, who knows, right? To me, there's a lot of overlap between self-defense, self-preservation, self-protection, and what a lot of people call preparedness, a lot of terms that are used dismissively. Good morning, Nathan. Years ago, when I bought this house, the stove that I had, the wood stove, the stove that was here was this really interesting, it could burn wood or coal. I'd never seen anything like it, but it was horrendously inefficient. I could throw a log in there and it would burn up in 15 minutes, and I got very little heat. It needed to be replaced. So I replaced it. I replaced it with a wood stove. Most of the people I know do not have wood stoves. They have pellet stoves. They go and they buy pallets of wood pellets, and pellet stoves are nice. You can fill up a hopper. I actually know someone who built a hopper that could hold 2 days worth of pellets. They like doing kind of those engineering projects. So I've had multiple people ask me, Jeremy, why didn't you get a pellet stove? Take a moment and think about it. Take care, Andy. Take a guess. Why didn't I buy a pellet stove? Because I can't make pellets. There are forests all around here. Even though I don't own the land, I could go through and cut dead wood in a pinch, and I'm sure none of my neighbors would care. Cut it, dry it, have all the wood that I needed. Now, I'm not doing that because I'm not going to trespass on their land if I don't need to. And I can buy a cord of wood fairly inexpensively. I understand as much as I can as a man that there is a difference between the analogy that the observation I'm making about a wood stove and my inability to make pellets and the analogy I'm making with baby formula. I understand. but I think that is something to be considered. There's something ironic, and again, there's no judgment in here. I find it ironic that the most universal attribute for mammals as raising young children has been cast aside to manufacture something, and now that manufacturing process has been interrupted. I find that ironic. One of my fundamental life principles is to stay as natural as possible. You can probably infer that if I were to have children where I would want our children to be taking their sustenance from, wouldn't just be up to me, though, of course. Right. So I'll step down off my soapbox. Ray says, unfortunately, in Western civilization, we've been conditioned to believe that there will always be resources whenever, wherever we want and need. But the truth is, the global economy is so shaky that it takes only a singularity to cause the whole house of cards to collapse. And I'll be honest, I'm not going to use that word collapse, but I would guess that everything will have moments of interruption over the next 12 months. Everything. Not at the same time. We'll always have food. But you may go to the store and not be able to make a thing that you wanted to make because one or two things on the list of ingredients is out. Just something to keep in mind. Gad says, being prepared. If you only trained for the sports aspect of martial arts, you wouldn't be that much concerned with self-preservation, self-betterment, etc. Jenny says, my mom and I have talked about how much she was fortunate to teach me and my siblings as a single mom who loved to take us camping. Yeah. So again, this is a thread that I think is going to wind through. And you guys are welcome to ask questions about this and how I see things. I consider myself to be a much more realistic person when it comes to these things. For example, I'm going to try to get to Costco this week. It might be today to grab a few things I don't need right now, things I will use. There's not a lot of space in the chest freezer, but I would like to get some more, what's on the list? Some frozen meat. There's a sale on frozen turkey burgers. Those are portioned out really easily. Grab a couple boxes of those. The same mindset here. We'll end with this statement. We'll end this portion with this statement. The same mindset from which you evaluate training and preparing for an unintended confrontation, the same mindset that you on the fly are utilizing in that combat situation can be applied to excuse me, anything. It can be applied to where am I at risk? Where are the holes in my life? It can be scary to do so, but it is worth doing. All right. Now, Frank gave us something that we're going to talk about. This past Sunday was Police Officer Memorial Day. And there is one particular police officer I, Frank, would like to remember. Officer Sonny L. Kim. He was a policeman in my hometown of Cincinnati, Ohio. Sadly, he was killed in the line of duty on June 19th, 2015. There's actually a memorial highway in his honor. And there's a link here. police-museum.org if you want to read more. On December 13th, 1987, Sonny joined the Cincinnati Police Division as a police recruit. He was promoted to police officer on May 1st, 88, issued badge 396, and assigned to District 4. As was policy then, Officer Kim was rotated to District 2 on September 24th, 1989. During 89, he was personally commended by a citizen for rapid response and professional action in apprehending a stabbing suspect with his weapon still in his hand. Police Chief Lawrence E. Whalen commended him in 90 for dedication and initiative, resulting in the closures of 15 residential burglary cases. During 1992, while off duty and observing suspects breaking into cars, Officer Kim tried to intervene and the suspects fired handguns at him. He returned fire, but neither he nor the suspects were wounded. Another commendation came from Assistant Police Chief Bruce Knox in 1994 for peacefully negotiating with a man who barricaded himself in a building. Police Chief Michael Snowden commended him in 1997 for keen observations and professionalism in taking charge of a potentially suicidal situation. Then another commendation came from Acting Police Chief Richard L. Janke in 2005 for rescuing a man who had jumped from the I-275 bridge into the Ohio River. During 2013, he received the Department Award for exemplary conduct. A martial arts expert, Officer Kim also owned the Japanese Karate Dojo on Mason Montgomery Road in Sims Township. Some of the students there looked up to him like a father and attributed to him a change in their lives. At the end of every training session, the students would recite words Sensei Kim meant his students to always remember. Seek perfection of character, be faithful, endeavor, respect others. Refrain from violent behavior. Officer Kim was highly respected by his commanders, supervisors, peers, and the communities in which he lived and served. He was a success as a police officer, mentor, sensei, father, and husband. By June 2015, he had served his community 27 and a half years and earned 21 letters of appreciation and or commendation. You know, it's interesting when we have days like that, and, we're memorializing this person or this group of people. I think in the effort to celebrate many, we lose the human connection. That I felt more connected to this person that I do not know, never met, never heard of before, because a friend of mine has a connection geographically. This is something that I liked that CrossFit did. CrossFit offered up what they refer to as hero workouts that were named for certain people, often, not always, military lost in the line of duty. And there was something there. There was something really brilliant about the way they did that. What if forums were like that? What if instead of forums being, we know these forms and they never change? This is me off the cuff. What if we made a form for people or a certain person in the same way? And then instead of just certain styles learning, everybody learned that form. That'd be kind of cool. There is active discussion about breastfeeding. So let me summarize. That's why I prefaced everything I said with no judgment, and this is me offering up my thoughts as with as much understanding as I can have as a man. I do not have breasts. I cannot breastfeed. I am not, and I think you all know me well enough to know I do not make sweeping generalizations with 100% inclusion in them. That is not at all what I'm saying. Okay. All right. So our next thing is our Facebook conversation. So yesterday, we talked about community and leadership and So I asked, does a community need a certain organizational structure? That is, does it need a single leader? Is hierarchy required at all? And we've got a couple comments from a couple of you. So let's read them. Mark says, not in a community that is motivated by positivity. And Gad says, depends on what the community is about. If it is to share ideas and thoughts and uplift each other, then no. If the community's goal is perhaps more economic or political, then a form of leadership is definitely needed. Most communities do not have leadership. If you think of all of the things that are communities, in your definition, I would guess most of them do not have explicit leadership. However, in order for a community to grow from, or to, I guess, remain, generally requires some kind of leadership. So that it comes back to why. I'm going to read this, even though this is a little bit of a detour. We'll come back. Jenny says, from my experience, you will start a conversation with a thought or understanding to engage, whether that is your personal stance or not, so that many viewpoints can be discussed. You help everyone learn from hearing multiple sides. Yes. My opinion is just my opinion. And people don't need to agree with me. I have no desire to exert any energy convincing people of anything. The only time I'm going to convince people of things if I'm, I don't know, selling them something or on trial. If we disagree on things, I do not believe this, but let's say I did. A woman who does not breastfeed is wrong. Let's say I believed that. Assuming that we could exist in a world where disagreement is okay, where's the value in someone changing my mind on that? I'm not an authority. People aren't coming to me for, child rearing advice. It doesn't change anything. We spend a lot of time trying, under the delusion, there's a hummingbird that really, I don't know why. And this is like day 3 of doing this. Hanging out right there, like flying right there. The food's right there. It's like straight across. So I don't know if it somehow sees it. I don't know. A lot of us are under this delusion that if we exert our time and energy to convince someone else of our opinion, that the world becomes better because we have become that arrogant, that our opinions are right. And yes, I'm using air quotes, and thus everyone should be subject to our opinions. It's not the case. It's dumb. Dumb. All right. Back to leadership. Does a community need a certain organizational structure? I don't think it does. I think it can have one of many organizational structures. I think there are a lot of structures it can have. But I think I'm trying to find a difference in there, right? I'm looking for what's the element that makes it different, the need versus the benefit of having structure versus not. And I think the benefit comes when the organization grows. I've been part of organizations that have, or communities, let me use the right word. I've been parts of community T's. I've been part of communities. There we go. Weird pluralization. Where structure and leadership and everything were vague, and yet there was still a desire to grow. And it doesn't work well. If we think about a community as a group, I think there is a structure there, regardless. But it can only grow large. It can only grow as large as that structure can support. So if the community has people coming in and out and there's no consistency, there's no permanence, there's no organization, that community can't grow very large. Quite often those communities end up with one person who kind of, take the helm and move things up to the next level. We see this in a lot of nonprofits. And then that one person quits or moves on, and it falls back to what it was, which is very little. This might have been too vague. And if that's the case, that's okay. This is something I've been thinking about in terms of communities and organizations because of whistlekick, because we're growing, because we're bringing on more people, because more people show up for this show and other things that we do. So it's important to me to think about those. Everything is so green right now. I noticed it yesterday as I was driving around. There are a couple big oak trees near my house, and they had this intense bright green color in the leaves. Love it. Kelly says, what did you call it last Thursday? The keeper of the vision. I think communities need someone to have that position. Yeah, that's how I see. So Kelly's talking about our last school owners mastermind. When I talk to my clients, the owners, I'm usually dealing with the owners, they're the keeper of the vision. They can outsource absolutely in everything and anything on their plate, but that's the one thing they can't do. Everyone needs to trust that they have a direction, that they have a vision for where the organization is going, and they need to communicate at least some of that so people can do their job better and trust that the work they are putting in individually is contributing to something greater. I think I don't consider myself to be a strong leader, but I think one of the things that I get right is communicating that vision and making sure everybody who helps knows that they're helping. Nice. We're going to end. Stacy says, it's so gorgeous out with the rain and the heat. My ferns jumped from sprouts and curls to a foot or more tall yesterday. Wow. All right. My stomach's gurgling. All right, everybody. I'm going to go. I hope you have a great day. If you didn't check out yesterday's episode of Martial Arts Radio, please do. If you have questions or comments, things that you want to add to the show, we've got a Facebook group, and you can leave your questions or comments over there. In fact, I'm not going to post something for tomorrow. I'm going to invite all of you to post something, and we'll take them as we need them, and maybe it'll get us the rest of the week. That's my hope. Knock on wood. Right? I want to hear from you. This show is better when you guys drive it, honestly. If you want to support us, we've got the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. We've got the code FIRSTCUP15 at whistlekick.com for a discount. And we've got the whole list at the family page, whistlekick.com/family. I made an update yesterday. Remember, First Cup's the only martial arts morning show live, 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Facebook, on YouTube, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're on Twitch. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we are on Twitter. Oh, didn't even know I could do that. Here, let's put that back. Kelly, you have lilacs? I'm jealous. My lilacs are not up yet. All right, everybody. You have a wonderful day. Thank you for coming by. I appreciate you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.